What do Joe Rogan, AI, and the Bible have in common? Australia just banned social media for anyone under 16, and why I need you to stop calling yourself a content creator in 2026. All that and more on this episode of Curious and Inspired. Welcome to a brand new episode of Curious and Inspired. I am your host, Matt Bandrick. It is 2026. We made it. Let's get into it. Seen on the internet, where we talk about things that we've seen on the internet. MTV is shutting down. They are turning off the lights for good. By the time you see this video, MTV will be no longer. MTV was where you went for all the culture, for the music, for what was happening, what was cool. MTV defined all of it for us. And, you know, to see that disappear is actually kind of sobering. There's something about it that, you know, obviously makes me recognize my age. But then also it just reminds me of how much the world is changing and how much, you know, we don't have much control over it. And granted, it's been declining for many years. You know, they decided to invest more in shows like Ridiculousness. So it really wasn't the hub for engaging in music content and music media for quite a long time. But nonetheless, you know, it's the end of an era. Seen on the internet, number 2, Instagram is dead. There's a lot of sentiment going on, I've been seeing on threads, about people saying that Instagram is dead. And, you know, the takes are very polarized. Here's what I think is actually happening. Instagram itself isn't dead. The platform is alive and well for monetization, ads, for selling you things, for creators, you know, chasing the algorithm and chasing virality. Instagram is very, very alive for those things. Community on Instagram is dead. Feeling of connection, seeing what your actual friends are doing, discovering people organically, that state of the world is very much gone. And it's unfortunate because a lot of social media has, you know, become extraction. You know, it's about extracting our attention, our data, maximizing our engagement, and really just converting that into revenue. And I think that that's what people are actually missing. When everyone says that Instagram is dead, what they're missing is the ability to connect to people genuinely. And there was a point in time where we were actually using the platform to do that. People were just creating things simply because they enjoyed it. They were sharing their day because they thought it was something cool that they wanted to show the world. And then it became this environment where everything had to be somehow rooted in how you're going to make money off of it. And I think that that is truly what people are mostly reacting to when they say Instagram is dead. Signals versus noise. This is Signals versus Noise, where we take the headlines and figure out what actually matters and what's just noise, because not everything loud is worth listening to. Let's get into it. First up, Joe Rogan says Jesus Christ could return as artificial intelligence. This to me is a signal. We should be absolutely paying attention to this. Here's exactly what happened. Joe Rogan, a man with about 15 million listeners, went on his podcast and said, and I quote, "Jesus was born out of a virgin mother. What's more virgin than a computer?" He continued to say, if Jesus does return, you don't think he could return as artificial intelligence? So first of all, it's very easy to have a loss of words for this, but it's going to be fun to kind of pick apart. I'm not here to tell anyone what to believe, but I need you to understand what's happening here. Joe Rogan's audience is a very specific demographic, and he wants that demographic to start playing with the idea that technology can be their savior. This is what I call narrative seeding. When you start to see certain notions and philosophies pop up in different aspects of the media to sort of change the overall notion and philosophy of a society, of what a generation of people are thinking and feeling. When you start floating the idea that AI could be divine and that it could be some kind of second coming of any religious figure, you're priming people to accept that whatever AI does is somehow ordained, that this is, you know, something that you should just follow and believe in as though it's inevitable. This is the way of the world, and this is just kind of where we all have to kind of fall in line because it's meant to be. It's a certain calling, if you will. And I think that that's a slippery slope when you start talking about technology in that way. So this is a signal, not specifically because of Joe Rogan, but because I want you guys to start paying more attention to the way that the media frames certain theories and certain notions as it relates to emerging technology. Anything that starts to mix belief in God and religion with the usage of their product is a very dangerous, slippery slope. I think we're going to start seeing way more of this. And I want you to be more discerning when you start to see it creep up on your feeds. Number 2, Australia becomes the first country to ban social media for users under 16. So this to me is a signal, and it's a big one. So Australia has decided that they're not going to restrict it. They're going to full out ban social media for kids Teenagers and younger, 16 and under. Over 1 million accounts are being deactivated as we speak, and platforms that don't comply face fines up to $50 million. This is a signal for me because this, in a lot of ways, is an admission. That means that they understand what the technology is doing, the way that it affects our brains, the way that we interact with ourselves and each other, and they've decided to draw a hard line and say that kids don't have access to it. The thing to take away is that these products are working as intended. They're designed to keep you scrolling. They're designed to keep you anxious, distracted, and coming back for more. And they know the harmful effects that this can have on developing minds. They've seen the research, they have the data, they understand what it does to attention spans, to self-esteem, to mental health. And with all of that information, they have drawn a hard line and said, we actually don't want our children to be using this. I want you all to start paying attention to when policy really starts to read as a confession. And really a reminder that the only person who's going to protect your attention, your peace, your mental health is you. Australia just drew a line in the sand. Where's yours? Instagram announces a new feature allowing its 3 billion monthly active users to customize their algorithm and be able to tell it what we want to see more of, what we want to see less of. I saw a lot of excitement on the internet about this one, both from the people on Threads, just the community, and then also from Instagram itself. Like Meta itself has spent a lot of money making sure that we know that this is available now. This one to me is noise. Nothing more than a PR move designed to make it seem like our preferences are a priority to the organization. And they're framing this as though it's like some Christmas gift, if you will. It's like, look what you can now do. Now we're allowing you to customize your feed. Isn't that fantastic? We already told you what we wanted our feed to be. When I hit follow, that's what I want to see. When I hit unfollow, that's what I do not want to see. Like, I'm struggling to figure out what was hard about already making the feed that is customized to what it is that we want. We've been telling them for years what we wanted to see based on the behavior that's baked into the app. They could have shown us a feed catered to our preferences from the very beginning. But our personal preferences are not as lucrative. You see, the algorithm was never designed to show you what you wanted anyway. The algorithm was designed to show you what keeps you on the app the longest, whether you ask to see it or not. So what makes you angry? What makes you anxious? What makes you compare? What makes you laugh? These are the things that make you stay. Your preferences were never the priority to begin with. That's why they never gave you the option to tweak it. So now they spend years showing us things that we have no control over and then throw us a bone to make it seem like we have the opportunity to do more work to fine tune it ourselves. So the reason why this is noise is because I don't want you guys to confuse options with power or the ability to customize with the ability to actually control anything. They're not giving you control. They're giving you the illusion of control while the underlying system of making sure that you're on the app as long as possible stays exactly the same. The point is, if Instagram actually wanted to show you what you asked for, they would have already done it. So even though this particular feature on Instagram is very much noise, I do want you guys to start paying more attention to the value of new features. You know, whenever you see a splashy PR campaign, like, look what you can now do. Now you're able to do X, Y, Z. All that is great, but look underneath. Peel back the layer a little bit and really start to question what value is actually being provided to you. Next up, Threads, which is reportedly reaching over 400 million monthly active users, now labels posts from bot accounts. I saw a lot of excitement about this as well. So this one to me is also noise. It's an illusion of a transparency play that really isn't making that much transparent. So it will say automated account. It's very official, it's very responsible, but it's also very useless. The question becomes, if you can put a label on an account that is a bot, why not just shut down the account that's a bot? You built the platform, you control who gets on, you have the keys to the entire thing. So why are the bots still there is the question. Because bots are good for business. That's why. I guarantee if you ask why enough times for any new feature, it'll lead back to money. The fact of the matter is that bots drive engagement. Bots inflate reply counts. Bots make the platform look alive, active, buzzing. Bots create the illusion that more people care than actually do. That's what pumps the metrics. That's what gets reported in earnings calls. So they don't want to get rid of the bots because the bots are good for business. They just want to make you feel better by telling you that it's a bot. Please do not give them more credit than is due for this one. This is absolutely noise. They basically are telling you that the house is on fire when they're the ones that lit the match. Noise. Signals for the week. Pay attention to the lines that they will continue to blur as it relates to the way machines of the future are framed as our savior. Australia leads the way in taking responsibility on the clear and present negative impacts of social media on youth. I think that's a great thing. And the noise is Instagram wants you to do your job for them, and Threads is labeling problems instead of actually solving them. This was signals versus noise, because not everything loud is worth listening to. Moving on. As we head into the new year, it's a brand new year, it's 2026. And I want to talk about some things that have been on my mind as it relates to encouraging and empowering you all to enter the year on the right foot. I spent the last year and a half, upping my content game, right? I started writing more, I started posting more. Some stuff went viral and it felt really good. And actually was a lot of inspiration for me to come back to YouTube. Seeing how things were resonating with you all, really inspired me to come back and really start the show. So I'm happy about it through and through. But there's something about it that I want us to start to acknowledge way more. And it's the sheer flood of content in general. Everybody wants a voice, everybody wants to be seen, and I get it. I'm one of them, right? Like I am here inside of content telling you about creating content. And I understand that as a premise. But I want you to pay attention to a couple things. If you are out here creating content and you're being vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there, on the internet for entertainment, for teaching, for whatever the reason, I want you to go into this year very clear on who you are, very clear on what you do, and very clear on what you actually bring to the table. And one of the best ways to do that is to stop calling yourself a content creator. Matt, what do you mean by that? Because I am a content creator. I make content. Why would I not call myself a content creator? When I hear content creator, I put stuff on the internet to see what sticks. That to me is what that phrase has come to mean. I want you to lean into the fact that you are more than that. I want you to lean into the fact that feeding a machine, feeding an algorithm with more stuff put out to the masses is perhaps an underselling of what you actually have to offer. Because the thing is, we've been so trained to monetize every nook and cranny of our lives that innovation or any sort of creativity has become synonymous with revenue streams rather than the value and the impact of said creation. So the phrase content creator, let's break it down. Content. First of all, at this point, what even is content? Content is a platform word. Content is algorithm food. That's what content is. Let's just be very clear. Content is algorithm food. It doesn't actually mean anything. You're a maker of stuff. It's the word that they use when they don't care about what it is that you actually made. Now let's talk about the word creator. This one I feel like is hollowed out too, because creator of what at this point? The masses, are encouraging all of us to use AI, use ChatGPT to write your caption, use a generative tool to create the video, use, XYZ program to generate the thumbnail. It's like, all right, well, what part of it did you do? Where's the you in any of that? If the cornerstone of what you're doing is stitching together templates that someone else made, which part is actually the creation exactly? Especially the unique part of the creation that only is yours, right? Because there's a certain level of expression that should come from creation. Void of that, it really just starts to feel like busy work. I want you to be able to answer the question of what part of you is in the things that you're creating. And it's fine to use AI to augment your workflows. I use AI all the time. At work, I build AI tools for the masses to use. So I am a supporter of, the general public using AI, but there is a difference between using a tool and outsourcing your voice. And if the machine is doing most of the thinking, most of the work, most of the spirit comes from a machine, I would encourage you to dig a little bit deeper and define your personal value. Everyone has access to the same tools. And the minute that everyone can do something is exactly when the rules change. And so the bar is going to raise anyway. I just want you to be prepared for it. Because when everyone can make a beautiful cinematic movie, or everyone can make, an art painting that would take someone by hand, 80 hours, and you can do it in a single prompt or a couple of prompts on the machine, you start to lose a little bit of the texture, the humanity in it. It starts to dissipate a little bit. There was a point in time where we would categorize things like things that people win awards because of their ability to execute are now being reduced down to a couple strings of text that you put into a machine. As everyone is able to make the same, quote, quality of creation, where then is the differentiator? That's where you come in. The tools are man-made and the outputs are man-made. And we're going to start to see everyone, as we're already seeing everyone using these tools to make things that look amazing. But in a sea full of amazing, or a sea full of AI generated content, what's going to be the thing that makes your work stand out? It's going to be the part that comes from you. In order to put yourself into the creation, you have to define what that is first. The technology is your assistant, not your author. Your job isn't to lean entirely on the machine. Your job is to bring something unique to the machine that only you can bring. Your perspective, your questions, your talent, your insights, your way of seeing the world that is very unique. That is the part that cannot be commoditized. So just to bring it back full circle, when you're calling yourself a content creator, you're kind of just saying, I make stuff and put it on the internet. And I want you to ask yourself if you're more than that. The overall takeaway is this. In a world that's about to be flooded with AI-generated content, what's scarce is going to be the human perspective. What's needed is going to be the personal insight that makes your perspective unique. Everyone's going to be able to make a movie. Everyone's going to be able to make a song. Everyone's going to be able to design something that looks professional. So then what's left? What actually has value when everyone has access to the same tools? It's you. The human touch, taste, nuance, perspective. That's the finger on the pulse of what's going to make content of the future more meaningful and more impactful. The creators of the future that are able to inject themselves into their work will be the ones that rise to the top. I want us to start thinking about what happens when we lose, what happens when we skip the struggle. The 10,000 hours, the failing forward, the instincts that you build by doing work that isn't great at first. There's a development that happens that is being flattened because we're sort of skipping the hard parts to generate it. What is the longer term impact of trading depth for velocity is yet to be seen. I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. The human touch is about to become the thing that's the hardest to find. And I want you to make sure that yours is impossible to ignore. So number one, I want you to define your value without the word content. What do you actually do? Who do you help? What's the transformation that you offer? Say it plain. I teach people how to think different about money. I make people laugh when they're going through hard times. I document my journey so others feel less alone. That in and of itself is beyond content. That's measurable value delivered in the form of content. That's an actual contribution. There's a difference. And I want you to be able to name yours. Number two, check your intentions, or look at your last 10 pieces of content in general and ask yourself, what was the point of each one of these? Like, posting without intention is how we get a noisy feed. Decide what you're willing to stay silent about and what you're not. The ways of the world are very interesting. And I think that as you create your content, you need to make sure that you're anchoring your content with your own level of integrity. Silence is a position, and what you don't say also says something. If you have a platform and you're using it to talk about everything except the stuff that matters, that is a choice. And I want you to be able to remain convicted in the position you take on global things in the world. And I'm not saying that you need to be political, but I am saying you need to be intentional about what you do and don't present in the content that you create. And I want you to be aware of the notion that what you stand for makes a difference. And so just as much as you think about, the content that you're creating and the value that you're bringing, also I want you to think about where your integrity is resonating. Where is your moral compass? And even if you're not a political commentator, the folks should be able to understand where your personal temperature is on the things that matter in the world. In closing, the world needs what you have. You just need to make it with intention. Create like it actually matters, because it does. Create with intention, create with clarity. Reconsider the label content creator. And instead, call yourself what you actually are. A writer, a teacher, a comedian, a documentarian, an artist. Someone with a point of view. Name it and be it. And on that same note, be careful with AI. It is a tool and it's a very powerful one. And I encourage you to use it in whatever way is best. But don't let it replace the thing that makes you who you are. The mess, the imperfection, the lived experience, the perspective that only comes from being a human being walking through the world. That's the part that AI can't replicate, at least right now. And that's also the part that matters. Creativity should be a gift to the world so special that people are willing to pay for it, not the other way around. And so create from your heart and let that lead you to the money instead of what am I going to make in order to make money? The bar is always going to move. And so the question is, are you just doing what everyone else is doing to make a quick buck? There are two sides of the line. I'm not really telling you which one you should choose. I just want you to be aware that in the way that you create your content, you are inherently choosing one or the other. And I want you to be clear on which one that is. Now, Q&A of the week. Let's get to a couple of them. The show is Curious and Inspire, right? So of course we should have some questions. How could we not? I love when you guys send me questions. How do you stay motivated to create when everything feels pointless? First, I don't really try to stay motivated. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. So I don't think I try to stay motivated. I try to stay committed. I try to keep my eyes on the prize and figure out exactly what I want and then question whether the things that I'm doing are in support of the things that I say that I want. So I stay committed to showing up even when I don't really feel like it. And again, like we were saying earlier in the episode, what is the reason that you're doing this? What is the reason that you're creating? If you stay true to that, then that in and of itself will help you stay committed. And also a very interesting part of that question was like the word pointless, when everything feels pointless. I think you need to define what the point is for you, right? Like maybe what incentivizes other creators doesn't incentivize you. So if things are feeling pointless, that means that you haven't yet identified what your personal value system is. Or maybe you have identified your personal value system and the things that are around you there's tension between your personal values and what's happening in the world. If I were in your position, I would do a little bit of work to define what my personal point is. What is the point that I want to make? What is the goal that I'm trying to reach? And then wrap my behaviors and the way that I spend my time around that. Next up, how do you balance creating for yourself versus creating for an audience? I don't really think about it as balance as much as I think about it as overlap. It's less about, and it's interesting because if you think about balance, like almost balancing the scales, it's making it seem as though these are like things that are opposing. When in reality, creating for yourself and creating for an audience should really be one and the same. What you want to create for yourself is personal expression. Then there will be an audience for that expression. The stuff that resonates the most will find the people that it's meant for. It's just that the incentive isn't audience first. It's you first, and then it's putting it out in the world and letting the people that are supposed to find it. But that also goes back to, again, you defining why you're doing this in the first place. When you create from the truth, the right audience will find you anyway. You find the balance by bringing them together and creating from your heart. And that is the show, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy that you joined me. I am your host, Matt Vandrick. This is the first episode of many. We have so much more in store for you, and I want you to keep joining me. It is going to be a fantastic year. There's a lot that we talked about today that I want you to take into your year with you. I'm wishing you all the best, all the success in the world. Happy 2026, and I will see you soon. As always, stay curious, stay inspired. Y'all be good. Peace. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for new episodes Thursdays bi-weekly at 8 p.m. Connect more with me at CuriousInspired.com and at CuriousInspired on all socials. Thanks for watching. As always, stay curious, stay inspired. Y'all be good. Peace.